I didn't ask many questions. It was a cash job, posted on a dusty bulletin board at a grocery store just off Highway 26. Whisper Pines Campground, cabin cleaner needed. Must be punctual. No smoking. No pets. No music. $150 per day plus meals. Stay optional. Call after dark. No company logo. No address. Just coordinates and a number that rang 4 times, then clicked without a greeting. A voice said, "If you want the job, show up before sunrise. Cabins don't clean themselves, and neither do the guests." Then it hung up. So I packed my bag, drove into the Pines, and didn't think twice. I should have thought twice. Whisper Pines isn't marked on GPS. You follow a gravel road that turns to dirt, then narrows to a single lane flanked by trees so tall they look like they're holding the sky up by hand. By the time I arrived, the air was thick with that damp cedar smell and something sweeter, like rotten fruit that hadn't fallen yet. The campground gate was open. No one was there to greet me. The main lodge looked like it had been built in the 70s and then immediately forgotten. Wood panels. Slanted roof. Faded flag above the porch. No lights. No sign of life. Just a clipboard nailed to the front door. It held a single sheet. Whisper Pines, cleaning shift assignment. Name blank. Start date, today's date, already filled in. Assigned cabins, 1 to 6. Meals, served at dusk. Don't be late. Rules, see cabin 1 for protocol. Cabins cleaned daily. Follow the list. Rules are not suggestions. Below it was a ring of old brass keys labeled 1 through 6. And a hand-scrawled note taped beneath. If a cabin's locked, wait. It will open when it's ready. I stood there for a full minute, listening. No birds. No bugs. Just trees breathing. And somewhere deeper in the forest, the faint, hollow sound of a door creaking open on its own. Cabin 1 sat closest to the lodge. Modest, wooden, moss creeping up the east wall like it was trying to keep the place still. Curtains drawn. No footprints. But the door was unlocked. I stepped inside. Clean enough, but cold. Not temperature cold. Stillness cold. Like the air hadn't moved since the last person left. If they left. I found the cleaning supplies tucked neatly in a cedar box beside the hearth. Dustpan. Gloves. Cloth. And resting on top, a laminated rules sheet sealed tight like someone expected it to survive a flood. Across the top, block letters. Cleaner's Protocol, Whisper Pines. The woods know the rules. So should you. 1. Knock before entering any cabin, even if it's unoccupied. Especially then. 2. If there's ash in the fireplace, do not sweep it. Do not touch it. 3. Never touch any carvings made from black bark. Do not look directly at them longer than a breath. 4. If you find antlers inside a cabin, return them to the woods before dusk. Do not ask why. 5. Do not speak inside cabin 6. Not even a whisper. Especially not a name. 6. Cabin 3 must be cleaned in order. Never skip it. Never clean it last. 7. If you hear singing from the trees, leave the cleaning bucket where you stand. Do not follow the song. Do not look up. At the bottom, someone had added a line in pen, not typed. Scribbled fast. Pressed hard. If the water in the mop bucket turns red, you're being watched. Finish quickly. Then run. I stared at the list for a long moment, waiting for the joke. But the air in cabin 1 had changed. Thicker. Heavier. Like the walls were leaning in to see if I'd follow instructions. So I knocked before stepping into cabin 2. And when I did, I swear I heard something knock back. It rained on my second day. Hard. Cold. Relentless. That kind of Oregon rain that feels like it's trying to scrub the forest clean from the top down. I managed to get to cabins 1, 2, and 4 before the trail turned to mud. Cabin 3 sat at the bottom of a slope, lower than the others, closer to the tree line. It was dark. Locked. The kind of lock that didn't budge even when I leaned into it. And I remembered the line from the clipboard. If a cabin's locked, wait. It will open when it's ready. So I skipped it. Cleaned cabin 5. Then cabin 6, without saying a word. Came back to cabin 3. Still locked. So I went to the lodge, marked it down in the log, and called it a day. Big mistake. That night, I stayed in one of the employee cots in the main lodge. Cold but dry. Around 3 a.m., I woke up sweating. The lodge was freezing, but my blanket felt hot, like it had been left on a radiator. I sat up, and saw the windows. Every single one was covered in muddy handprints. Long, wet streaks. From the inside. I jumped up, flashlight shaking in my hand. No one else was in the lodge. I checked the doors. Still locked. But the fireplace had a fresh pile of wet pine needles arranged in a circle on the hearthstone. And my cleaning bucket? Sitting in the middle of it. Empty. At dawn, I ran straight to cabin 3. The door was wide open. Inside, the floor was spotless. Too clean. Bleached. Scrubbed raw. But every window was fogged, except for one, where someone had wiped away a perfect circle and written in the condensation. Not last. Not skipped. I cleaned cabin 3 again anyway. Didn't speak. Didn't hum. Just worked. And when I stepped outside, the sky above was clear for the first time in days. Back in the rules I wrote. Cabin 3 forgives quickly. But only once. Cabin 2 always smelled like old pine and burnt coffee. The kind of scent that clings to the walls long after anyone's been there. It was the third day when I forgot Rule 2. I'd started to move faster, thinking I was getting the hang of things. The rain was lighter. The air less heavy. I let my guard down. The fireplace in cabin 2 was lined with smooth river stones, blackened by years of use. A small pile of coal ash sat in the grate, pale gray with streaks of something darker in the middle. I hesitated. But my hand moved anyway. One sweep of the brush, just to tidy up. And that's when I heard it. Finally! Not a voice in my ear. A voice from inside the hearth. It wasn't loud. It didn't echo. It was close. Like someone had pressed their mouth just behind the iron screen and whispered between teeth clenched with hunger. I dropped the brush. The ashes shifted. Not from wind. From something exhaling. I stepped back. Left the cabin door open behind me and walked, not ran, back to the lodge. Tried to calm myself. Tried to convince myself it was wind. Old pipes. A bird, maybe. Until I saw the fireplace in the main lodge. It was lit. No wood. No lighter. Just burning, low and blue, like a gas flame from nowhere. And the same voice again, just above the crackling. You brought me home. The fire didn't go out until sunrise. I didn't sleep. Didn't eat. I sat outside in the cold air with the cleaning cloth still in my hand, staring at the porch steps. They were wet. Like something had walked up from the forest, dripping. The next day, I found the brush I'd dropped back in cabin 2. It was sitting in the ash bucket, perfectly cleaned. Still warm. I wrote a new addition in red ink under Rule 2. The ash remembers who stirs it. Don't clean graves disguised as hearths. Some fires are waiting for breath. Day 5. Cabin 5. The rain had finally stopped, but everything still dripped. The trees. The porch roofs. Even the air. Cabin 5 had always been easy. Quiet. Clean. No strange smells. No locked doors. It felt neutral. But when I opened the door that morning, the smell hit me first, copper and wet bark. And then I saw them. Antlers. A full rack. Still red at the base. Wedged in the shower, like they'd grown there overnight. Thick, smooth. Still warm to the touch. Rule 4 echoed in my head. If you find antlers inside a cabin, return them to the woods before dusk. Do not ask why. I carried them to the edge of the tree line behind the lodge, past the posted signs, past the old campsite ruins. The deeper I went, the quieter everything became. No wind. No birds. No wrong moves. I laid the antlers down by a rotted tree stump. Turned around. Walked back. That night, I found the same antlers mounted above the bed in cabin 5. Perfectly centered. Perfectly clean. Below them, on the cabin mirror, was a single word. No. Written in what looked like sap, dark and slow, still dripping. I stepped back toward the door, but it slammed shut. Locked. And the antlers cracked once above me, loud, echoing, like something inside them had shifted its weight. I slept outside that night. Cold on the porch with my boots on, flashlight off, watching the trees watch me. In the morning, cabin 5 was unlocked again. The antlers were gone. But the mirror wasn't clean. This time, someone had etched in tiny letters along the bottom corner. We bring them for a reason. Stop returning the dead. I updated Rule 4 on the sheet, this time scratching it directly into the wooden bunk frame inside the cabin. If they leave antlers, it's a gift. Refusing a gift is rude. Refusing twice is dangerous. Cabin 6 always felt different. Even from the outside. Where the other cabins had weathered charm, cabin 6 looked preserved. No moss on the roof. No spiderwebs in the corners. No bird droppings on the railings. As if something, or someone, was still maintaining it. Watching over it. And waiting. The rule about cabin 6 was the only one written in bold. Do not speak inside cabin 6. Not even a whisper. Especially not a name. I followed it every day. In and out in 5 minutes. Sweep, dust, leave. Not a word. Not a breath too loud. But on day 6 I slipped. It wasn't on purpose. I was just tired. Sleep deprived. Stiff. Going through the motions while wiping down the window ledge. And without thinking, I hummed. Just a soft note. Barely audible. A little melody from a childhood cartoon, the kind you don't realize is stuck in your head until it's too late. But I felt the air change immediately. It wasn't just still. It was pressurized. Like the air was holding its breath, and now I was too. I froze. And then, from under the bed, soft, slow, a second voice hummed the harmony. Same melody. Different pitch. Lower. Not human. It trailed off, and then spoke. Just loud enough to hear. You finally remembered me. I backed toward the door. Didn't turn my back. Didn't speak again. The humming followed me to the threshold, then stopped when I stepped outside. But when I closed the door, it didn't latch. It stayed open an inch. Just enough for me to hear what came next. Whispers. Layered. Overlapping. Repeating the same 3 things. You brought a name. It's yours now. Don't speak when we're awake. Later that evening, I checked my journal. I always wrote notes by cabin, quick, sloppy, shorthand. But under cabin 6, someone had filled the entire page. Not me. Different handwriting. And every line was the same sentence. I'm in here. Please don't forget me. The name scratched into the inside of the cabin door? My name. In my handwriting. But I hadn't written it. I hadn't even brought a pen that day. I updated the rules in permanent marker, across the inside of my forearm. Cabin 6 doesn't tolerate noise. If you speak, it listens. If you hum, it sings back. If you name anything, it keeps it. By the 7th day, I knew better than to wander. But the trails had been drying. The air smelled cleaner, sweeter. It was mid-afternoon when I hiked out behind cabin 4 to dump the mop water, part of the usual routine. There's a stump out there I used like a makeshift bench. I sat for just a second. Just a second. And that's when I heard it. Singing. Soft. Gentle. Too perfect. Female, maybe? Notes rising and falling in a language I didn't recognize. Or maybe I had once, somewhere far back in a dream. The trees leaned toward the sound. And so did I. Just a little. just a few steps off trail. Then I remembered Rule 7. If you hear singing from the trees, leave the bucket where you stand. Do not follow the song. Do not look up. I froze. The sound was closer now. The melody wrapped around branches like ivy, thick, clinging, personal. Then it changed. Became sadder. Slower. And the voice began to say, my name. First softly. Then clearly. Then from multiple directions. I dropped the bucket. Backed away. Didn't run. I've learned they like it when you run. Didn't speak. Didn't look up. Just walked backward until I was out of the trees and back on gravel. Later that night, I found the bucket on the porch of the main lodge. Still full. But not with water. Inside. A handful of red moss. 3 tiny bird bones. And a ring of black thread I'd never seen before. Tied neatly around the handle was a note. Thank you for listening. I left the bucket where it was and locked the lodge door. Didn't sleep. Because the trees hummed all night long. And once, just before sunrise, I swear I heard them ask, next time, will you stay? I etched a new line into the back of my flashlight. If the forest sings, it doesn't want an audience. It wants a duet. And it doesn't stop at just your voice. I hadn't planned to explore the lodge. Not any more than necessary. It always felt occupied. Even when it was empty. But on the 8th night, a storm rolled in. No rain. Just wind. Loud. Unnatural. Like the trees were arguing. And the front door of the lodge opened on its own, slow and smooth, and refused to close. I pushed. Pulled. Nothing. So I stepped inside. And that's when I noticed it. A trapdoor I'd never seen before. Half hidden under the supply shelf. Covered in burlap and pine needles that hadn't been there earlier. Almost like someone wanted me to find it. The handle was ice cold. I pulled it open. Stairs descended into a tight, narrow space, lit only by the dying beam of my flashlight. The air smelled like stone and ink. At the bottom, I found a small, windowless room. No ritual symbols. No bones. Just filing cabinets. A whole wall of them. Old, rusted, labeled and faded sharpie. Each drawer named after a former employee. Some names were scratched out. Others were underlined in red. A few had paper tags hanging from twine marked failed. Spoke. Looked up. I found one cabinet still unlocked. Inside, logbooks, cleaning rosters, and personal journals. Most ended suddenly. Pages torn. Entries that stopped mid-sentence. But the final file was newer. Still warm. Titled, Cleaner Number 39, Current. My name already printed at the top. Inside it, a full transcript of my first phone call. Printed copies of my notes. A scan of the red moss and bone contents from the singing bucket. And at the very back, a handwritten note on yellow paper. If you're reading this, you're still alive. That means you're ready. The rules are just scaffolding. It's time you learn to build your own. I climbed back up. Closed the trapdoor. It stayed shut. But the supply shelf was already back in place, like it had never moved. That night, there was no wind. No singing. Only stillness. And for the first time, I slept through the dark. The next morning, I updated the rule sheet and left it on the front porch for whoever comes next. Some rules are warnings. Others are invitations. All of them were written in fear. Now it's your turn to write with memory. My last day. I'd planned to leave after cleaning. Didn't tell anyone, not that there was anyone to tell. No more notes on the clipboard. No more knockings in the walls. No songs from the trees. Just stillness. But when I passed cabin 3 that morning, something had changed. The door was already open. Not unlocked. Open. All 6 lamps were lit. The fireplace glowed, though there was no firewood. And in the center of the room sat a round wooden table, set with 3 plates. Each one full. Real food. Hot. smelling like things I hadn't eaten in years. My grandmother's stew. A campfire cooked grilled cheese. Something I couldn't identify, but still somehow knew I'd loved as a child. One chair pulled out, for me. On the plate nearest the edge sat a folded piece of parchment. It was thicker than the other notes, bound by a red thread. I unwrapped it slowly. Inside, in a careful, new hand, Caretaker's Protocol, Whisper Pines Revised. The forest has moods. Learn them. Silence is not fear. It is respect. Not all guests are living. Treat them all with care. If a cabin leaves a gift, accept it. The names in the trees are stories, not warnings. Add yours when you're ready. If the song knows your name, sing back only once. Some cabins teach. Some cabins test. Cabin 6 does both. If you find a new rule, leave it behind. You are no longer the cleaner. You are the one who listens. I didn't eat. Not right away. I just sat in the open doorway, watching the trees sway. Not threatening. Not whispering. Just breathing with me. I realized I'd been part of this place longer than I thought. It wasn't about cleaning. It was about earning stillness. About learning not to disturb things that remember being disturbed. That evening, as the sun dropped behind the hills, I walked the perimeter of the campground one last time. Cabins silent. Windows warm. No more muddy handprints. No more red moss. Just peace. I left my name carved gently into the back of the clipboard, not deep, just enough. Below it, I left one last message. I followed the rules. Then I rewrote them. You will too. And as I walked past cabin 3 for the final time, I looked back. The door was still open. But now, all 3 seats were filled. And only one face looked back at me. Mine. Smiling. Not trapped. Just watching over things. Whisper Pines doesn't hire. It invites. And when it trusts you, it makes you a part of the quiet.